Hello, this is David and Colin here today to talk to you about the changes that are being proposed to the constitution of AEC. So how AEC might be governed in the years ahead. And we would like to introduce to you the new proposed constitution and with it a Church Handbook.
So why are we doing this, David?
Well, our current constitution was written back in 2005, and it's no longer up to date with the Charities Act, which was introduced in 2011. And so it doesn't reflect best practice. And the Charity Commission has introduced a new and more appropriate charitable structure. They did that in 2012, and from May 2013, new charities were able to register for that.
Okay, and so why are we doing this now?
Well, as you can understand from the dates I've just given you, we're a little bit behind the curve, and we've also been delayed quite a lot by the events of COVID over the last 18 months.
Right, so, but there are real benefits for changing over to this. Could you just outline to us what those are?
Yes, so there's always been a concern under the previous Charities Act about the liability of trustees of charities. And the new arrangements introduced limits to the liability of trustees and also of members. And they also allow charities to employ paid staff, which was possible under the old Charities Act, but had difficulties associated with it. It also does other things like allowing charities to deliver charitable services under contractual agreements and enter into commercial contracts in its own name, as well as owning freehold or leasehold land or other property.
So what will the churches actually result in when they start, well, when it begins to happen?
So what will change is that we will register as a charitable incorporated organisation, or CIO for short. And that means we will introduce a new constitution, and the detail in our current constitution will be moved into a Church Handbook.
So what's the difference between these new documents and our current document? Because we're going to two documents as opposed to one.
Yeah, that's right, Colin, yes. So the new constitution's focus is really on the requirements of the Charity Commission. And it's based on a model template that has been designed by the Charity Commission. And the FIC has also provided us with a tailored model of that, which we've been able to use. And these address the legal requirements for a CIO. Also, we're introducing a new Church Handbook, which is very similar to our existing constitution. It's about how we run our church and reflects our biblical understanding of running the church.
Great. Now, it might be worth me saying at this point, sorry, you just clicked on, to say that the model document, the new constitution, if we have questions about that, we need to bear in mind that most of that is set in law with the Charity Commission and can't be changed.
Yes, that's right. There's very little room for manoeuvre in terms of the constitution. The flexibility is in the Church Handbook.
Right. That's helpful. Thank you. So what's in the Constitution? What does that set out?
So the Constitution sets out the charitable purposes, which are called objects in the formal Constitution, i.e. it's what's the CIO for? And it tells us what the charity can do in carrying out its purposes. That's called the powers, such as borrowing money. Who runs it, which is the trustees, and who can be a member. How meetings will be held and how trustees are appointed. It tells us about any rules about paying trustees, investments and holding land, and whether the trustees can change the governing body or how they can change it, including its charitable objects. That's the amendment provisions when you get to look at it. And then finally, of course, hopefully we don't see this, but how to close the charity, the dissolution provisions.
Excellent. So that is the church constitution. What about the church handbook? What does that include?
Okay, so let me start by giving you an outline of the church handbook. And there are three parts to it. Part one connects the handbook with the constitution, and it identifies the first officers of the church. Part two states our basis of faith. It states our doctrinal distinctives, and we'll come to that in the next slide. And the ethical statements, the basis of faith in practice. And then part three is where most of the rules are in the church handbook. It tells us about the processes for elders, for deacons, for members. In other words, how we do church.
Excellent. Right. So some people might think, well, we've got a basis of faith. Isn't that sufficient? Why do we need all these other aspects in these booklets?
Yeah, so the basis of faith provides a foundation that a wide spectrum of Christ-centered Bible churches can build on. The section on doctrinal statements is a place where we can state the specific stance that we AEC want to take. For example, on believers' baptism or the open table at the Lord's Supper. Individual members might take different views, but they are welcome as members if they are able to respect the difference. The section on ethical statements clarifies our position on a number of current issues such as marriage, gender and respect. Members must be able to give their assent to these. So you can see there are different levels at which members may are needed to adhere to what's in those three parts.
And it's worth mentioning perhaps that the marriage, gender and respect, there is a statement about that in the ethical statements and in the basis of faith. And that reflects really some of the challenges that we face in our culture where there's very different views. And so that's why we've incorporated that into these statements to make it clear to people what our stance is on those. And hopefully they're helpful to people anyway to understand what we believe the Bible teaches on those.
Yeah. Thank you, Colin. Yeah.
So when can people expect to see the new constitution and handbook?
So I hope that will be soon. Every member with an email address will be sent an electronic copy of both the Constitution and the Church Handbook. And if you would like a paper copy, then you please ask for one as well. Members without an email address will be able to pick up copies at church. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. And in one sense, there's nothing, although we've mentioned members, there's nothing private about this because you could access it in due course through the Charity Commission website. So if you're interested as a person who isn't a member in knowing how the church might well be shaped in the future according to these rules, then you could pick up a booklet yourself. Yeah,
we've seen a number of new people at church, haven't we, Colin? Yes. So
yes.
Yeah, if you'd like to see those, then yeah, please help yourself.
Yeah. So how much do I need to know about the changes?
So each of you will have a different level of interest. As we've said already, the Constitution is fairly constrained to the changes that we're able to make. So part two of the Church Handbook is probably the most important. Well, as we've already said, 2.1 in that document is the basis of faith. and it's that of the FIC. So please check where you stand on this. It's a condition of membership that members assent to the basis of faith. Section 2.2 sets out our doctrinal statements. So we would hope everyone will read these and check they're able to respect them, not necessarily to assent to them, but to respect them. That's a condition of membership. It's a lower bar than the basis of faith and the ethical statements. And then in 2.3, we have the ethical statements. Again, please read those carefully. It's a condition of membership that members are able to assent to the ethical statements.
That's really helpful. Thank you, David. Shall we move on? What briefings will be given? So how are people going to find out more about these things or ask questions?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Yeah, so we're planning to set up a number of in-person meetings and Zoom sessions. Obviously, these will be at different times and on different days to allow people to be able to access them when it is convenient for them. So certainly the Zoom sessions will have limited attendance to make them more interactive. And there will be different sessions on the Constitution and Church Handbook. So, you know, you need to be able to sign up to both of them if you're interested in both areas. The point of that is that we don't want to overwhelm you with too much information in one session. So when they're advertised, do please sign up to a convenient session for you.
Excellent. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity and time for you to give feedback, and you'll need some time to read the documents. And so we hope that those sessions will help you to understand these documents better and gives you the opportunity to voice any concerns or questions that they might be raised.
Yeah.
So where next? What's the next step in this process?
So yeah, as we've just mentioned, some tutorials in person or on Zoom. And then because we're going to circulate the documents, you as members will be able to review them and provide your written comments to the elders by email or by letter. That might be via me as well. Then once the elders have reviewed those comments and agreed any changes that they think should be made as a result of the review, then those comments will be incorporated into the documents. And the updated documents will then be circulated to you. Church members will need to accept the new constitution and new handbook to remain as members.
Excellent, thank you. Final questions? Yes.
So once you've received the documents, as we've just said, please feel free to email me, David Cunliffe, or Colin to clarify anything you aren't sure of. So yeah, do make use of that because they're quite significant documents and you might need some help to get your head around it. Send any comments on those documents, formal comments, to me or Colin as soon as you can, either by email or just write a note to us and either post it to us or give it to us. And as we've just said, once the comments have been reviewed by the elders and incorporated into the updated documents, they will be sent out again to all the members. So then we'll have a church meeting to give you feedback on the church on any changes since the first documents were sent out. And after that, we'll schedule a further church meeting to vote on the acceptance of the new constitution and church handbook. And the process around that the detail of the process around that will be given to you nearer the time.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening to us today.
Yes, maybe not the most exciting thing, but we hope that you recognise the importance of moving to a CIO and the protection that it gives, but it also clarifies various issues that have come up concerning how we live out the Christian faith. And also there's very helpful stuff in these documents. For instance, like if we ever have to close the charity, it states explicitly how that's done and where the monies would go if that should ever happen. But there's many other aspects of it that you can read about and find out about. David, do you want to add anything else?
No, I think that's all for the moment. So we look forward to seeing you either at an in-person meeting or on Zoom.
Yeah, so we're trying to update you on that. I prefer it if you send it to David, because he's done loads of work on this that none of you will have seen, but it has been going on over the past few years. But you can email me, I'm quite happy to, but I just know that David is more on the ball with these things than I am. But by all means, contact either of us as you see fit. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've got one more slide, I think, with our contact details on.
Yeah.
There we are. So if you want to contact me, Colin at aechurch.org.uk, and David is davidc@aechurch.org.uk. Thank you.
Thank you.